The federal courtroom in Washington, D.C. Judge Carl Nichols bangs the gavel. He orders the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to submit Prince Harry's entire visa application file. The Heritage Foundation suspects Harry committed fraud regarding illicit substance use to gain entry. 82 pages of documents are submitted. More than half are heavily redacted. The Heritage faction is outraged and pursues the lawsuit to the bitter end. In London, investigative journalist Tom Bower smiles coldly. The risk of deporting the British prince is becoming clear. How will the US Internal Revenue Service tear apart Meghan's fortune? Will the immigration court strip Harry of his green card? How does the million-dollar empire in California collapse? Early January 2023. Trucks filled with cardboard boxes, sealed tightly with tape, rush across the streets. Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, officially hits the shelves at thousands of bookstores worldwide. In California, Harry takes a sip of tea in his vast Montecito mansion. He is confident that the pages exposing his family will bring in tens of millions of dollars in revenue. In the press, the public rushes in to dissect the most sensational details. Harry proudly articulates clearly how he used to snort cocaine, use magic mushrooms, and smoke marijuana at parties in Los Angeles. He writes those lines with the mindset of a rebellious victim. He wants the whole world to see how he healed his own psychological trauma. But 6 months later, in mid-2023, the atmosphere completely changes. Not at Buckingham Palace in London, but on the third floor of a grey marble-tiled office building located right next to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. This is the headquarters of the Heritage Foundation research think tank. Everything is silent. There are no screams from the paparazzi. There are no flashing lights. Only the rustling sound of turning pages and the continuous keyboard typing of lawyers wearing navy blue suits. They are not reading Spare to learn about the friction between sisters-in-law or royal dress stories. They read it like a dossier recording criminal evidence. Every word bragging about Harry's drug use is underlined with a red pen. A group of elites in Washington is secretly forming a new attack front. This silent room begins to initiate the most stringent federal legal process in America. They are preparing to activate a machine capable of stripping away the British prince's entire glamorous life right on American soil. The legal mechanism of the US immigration system operates extremely ruthlessly. It has no grey areas. Imagine you go to buy a life insurance policy worth millions of dollars. On the medical declaration, the insurance company asks if you have ever smoked. You fill in the word "no" to dodge the sky-high monthly premiums. You sign the pledge. A few years later, you have the whim to publish an autobiography. You proudly recount in detail that you smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day for 10 years to relieve stress. The insurance appraiser reads it. They immediately cancel the contract, revoke all benefits, and file a lawsuit against you for financial fraud. When standing before the court, you cannot argue that you only wrote that in the book to attract readers for fun. America's federal immigration law operates exactly the same way. Any foreigner applying for an entry visa must fill out a state-issued form. In it, there is a vital question. Have you ever used illicit substances? According to the strict regulations of the Department of Homeland Security, if you answer yes, your application is almost certainly rejected right from the get-go. The Heritage Foundation understands this takedown mechanism clearly. They file a lawsuit in federal court, posing an equation with only 2 answers, and either answer leads to Harry's destruction. The first answer: Harry honestly marked yes on the entry declaration. If so, why was he still granted a visa and strutting around on American soil? Did the administration trample on the Constitution, bending the rules to bestow privileges upon a foreign royal family member? The second answer: Harry marked no. This implies that he lied to the federal system on an official document. Immigration fraud is a felony. The only default and unappealable penalty for this charge is visa revocation and immediate deportation. This mechanism is so cold that it does not care where you stand in the line of succession to the British throne. When the Department of Homeland Security is forced to hand over 82 pages of documents, but heavily redacts more than half the content, this mechanism further proves its harshness. A serious violation is being covered up by the government. Behind the stiff press releases in the media, a secret war is fiercely taking place day by day. The first action comes from the Heritage Organisation's legal team. At the end of 2023, in the federal courtroom in Washington, they continuously submit petitions hundreds of pages long. They do not only use text, they collect every television interview video clip, extracting every audio file from the audiobook recorded by Harry himself. They bring these pieces of evidence and slam them straight down onto the desks of Department of Homeland Security officials. They force the US government to admit a reality. Harry voluntarily bragged about illicit substances, completely lucid and without coercion. As a result, DHS's evasion is backed into a corner, forcing this agency to submit 82 pages of Harry's personal immigration files for Judge Carl Nichols to review in private. The second action takes place in utter panic at the Montecito mansion. Upon realizing the memoir written by his own hand is turning into a federal indictment, Harry's public relations team frantically patches things up. In early 2024, the Sussex's legal representatives begin calling to whisper to editors-in-chief and leak information to insiders in Washington. They throw out an incredibly brazen argument. They assert that the drug use details in the book Spare might just be an exaggeration, an embellishment from the ghostwriter aimed at increasing drama to attract readers. They argue that the book's content cannot be considered sworn testimony before the law. They deliberately downgrade the credibility of the very book their client is selling. The result of this action is widespread ridicule. This cover-up exposes that Harry is willing to admit to being a liar in black and white just to escape deportation. The third action takes place in complete silence at the headquarters of the US Internal Revenue Service, IRS. While all eyes are locked on Harry's green card, senior financial inspectors are secretly reviewing Meghan Markle's entire cash flow system. They activate the FATCA Act, which specializes in tracing foreign assets. They open a direct data connection portal with His Majesty's Revenue and Customs, HMRC. Any advance payments from publishers flowing into Archie and Lilibet's trust funds, any speaking fees paid in British pounds, are recorded in the ledger. This auditing network quietly tightens every day. They create a closed financial encirclement, preparing for a massive tax collection that the Sussex couple is completely unaware of. Everyone is engrossed in watching whether Harry's British passport will be stamped for deportation or not. But there is another tiny detail that is the very blade cutting off their financial lifeline: Meghan's American passport. Unlike most countries in the world, the United States taxes based on citizenship, not residency. This means that whether Meghan lives in London, Canada, or Africa, she and her 2 children still have to submit detailed reports and pay taxes to the IRS on all income generated globally. The surprise lies in the fact that the trap has sprung and there is no way back. If Meghan feels the American tax system is too harsh, wanting to renounce her American citizenship to fully keep her tens of millions of dollars fortune, she will immediately trigger a more brutal mechanism. This country's law stipulates a levy called the exit tax. The very moment she signs the paper renouncing her citizenship, the IRS will automatically calculate the total volume of her assets. They will tax it immediately, as if she had sold off all those assets for cash on that very day. A massive sum of money will be siphoned directly from her bank account. Harry's green card is threatened with being stripped away, while Meghan's passport tightly binds her in an inescapable financial shackle. When the American passport turns into a shackle and media contracts begin to fracture, what ambitious goal will the Sussexes use to maintain their lavish lifestyle, and what hidden enemies are waiting for their downfall? Harry and Meghan did not leave Britain to seek a peaceful, reclusive life. They moved to the ultra-rich neighborhood of Montecito in California with a highly ambitious goal: establishing an independent dynasty bearing the mark of entertainment. The mega mansion they live in is not just a place to shelter from the rain and sun. It is a giant, money-burning machine. The bills for round-the-clock private security, the maintenance costs for the 16-acre estate, the money paid to the team of lawyers and public relations experts cost them over $3 million a year just to maintain a basic pulse. To nourish this lavish lifestyle, they need cash flows weighing tens of millions of dollars. The first action to achieve this goal is their continuous signing of media mega contracts. They use the titles Duke and Duchess of Sussex to negotiate a $100 million deal with Netflix, a $20 million deal with Spotify, and receive massive advance payments from publisher Penguin Random House for the memoir Spare. Meghan launches the lifestyle brand American Riviera Orchard, aiming to sell jams, candles, and homeware at upper-class prices. The second action clearly demonstrating this craving is how they react to core obligations. They completely shake off the boring ribbon-cutting ceremonies in the British reign, refusing all financial oversight from Buckingham Palace. But they stubbornly cling to that invisible crown. They fly on private jets, demand red carpet welcomes, and demand protection on par with heads of state wherever they set foot. The underlying reason behind this goal stems from an extreme psychology of compensation. Harry always carries the complex of a spare, the one who can never touch the throne or the highest privileges of his brother William. As for Meghan, a former television actress, she views the royal title as the perfect springboard to advance straight into the core elite of Silicon Valley and Hollywood. They believe they deserve to enjoy a billionaire lifestyle as compensation for the psychological trauma they claim the royal family inflicted upon them. They want to extract the maximum commercial value from the title of an institution that they continuously condemn on television broadcasts. They want an immunity card, making money freely like American billionaires while demanding the inviolable rights of British aristocrats. On the other side of the battle line, the Sussexes' opponents are not tabloids easily bought off or extinguished with defamation lawsuits. They face three forces that show no deference to titles: the US Internal Revenue Service, IRS, the Heritage Foundation, and the notorious investigative journalist Tom Bower. Their common goal is extremely pragmatic. Tom Bower wants to strip away the hypocrisy behind the victim facade. The Heritage Foundation wants to strictly enforce federal immigration law. And the IRS, they only want one single thing: tax money. Tom Bower proves his goal through the action of relentlessly gathering testimonies. He doesn't sit at home reading online news to write a book. Bower conducts closed-door interviews with over 80 insider sources. He approaches former employees who worked for the Archwell Foundation, Netflix producers who sat in meetings with Meghan, and even former aides of Buckingham Palace. He gleans every email snippet, every meeting minute to build the book titled Betrayal. The second action comes from the IRS's financial inspectors. They do not care that Harry is King Charles's son. America is a country that applies tax policies based on citizenship, not residency. This means that, Right from the moment Meghan Markle holds an American passport, her entire global income is in the crosshairs. The IRS immediately activates a direct financial data integration portal with His Majesty's Revenue and Customs, HMRC. Any money flowing into the Sussexes' pockets, from podcast fees in the US to dividends from trust funds in the UK, is recorded in the Federal Computer Grid System. The reason the goal of this B group of characters directly and fatally conflicts with the Sussexes lies in the principled nature of the system. Meghan and Harry live by selling illusions and distorting the truth in the media to attract sponsors. But the IRS does not listen to podcasts to calculate taxes. The Immigration Court does not watch documentaries on Netflix to issue visas. The Heritage Foundation and the IRS represent ironclad federal legal processes. This system operates on sworn affidavits, bank statements, and confirming signatures. The fact that Group B is determined to force the Sussexes to obey the law like ordinary citizens directly shatters the royal exception cover that this couple is using to make money. You cannot demand absolute privacy when the IRS requires you to submit detailed asset declarations down to the penny. You also cannot play the innocent victim when investigative journalists release internal meeting minutes proving you are a manipulator. The moment of impact does not break out on glamorous magazine covers, but rests neatly within the dry balance sheets of the financial advisory team in California. When the American Riviera Orchard brand begins to gobble up a massive amount of cash to operate, the Sussexes face a brutal reality of US tax law called the FATCA Act. They realize they are financially surrounded from all directions. Meghan's legal team warns her of a deadly legal dead end. If Meghan feels the US tax system is siphoning too much from her lucrative profits and she intends to renounce her US citizenship to switch to a British passport to evade taxes, another guillotine will immediately drop. America has a regulation called the exit tax. The very moment Meghan puts pen to paper on the document renouncing her citizenship, the IRS will automatically freeze and calculate the total value of her global net assets. They will tax that fortune immediately, applying a tax rate as if she had just sold everything off for cash on that very day. A massive sum of millions of dollars will evaporate directly from her bank account before she has time to take it across the border. This collision becomes even more suffocating when the cash flow related to the royal family does not escape the crosshairs either. Archie and Lilibet are both American citizens. This means that any valuable gift from King Charles, any money extracted from royal trust funds for the two children, will be meticulously scrutinized by the IRS and required to be declared. The Sussex couple realizes they are falling into a perfect trap. The illusionary cash flow they expect to harvest from their titles is slamming straight into the concrete wall of federal law. Every door to move cash flow to maintain the $3 million annual living cost is blocked and placed under a microscope by the tax agencies of both nations. Just as the Sussexes are racking their brains to untangle the financial encirclement and fearing Harry's deportation sentence, journalist Tom Bower launches a blow that collapses their entire internal defense line. He does not strike at Buckingham Palace. He strikes straight at the foundation of this couple's marriage. In the book Betrayal, Bower reveals a ruthless decision by Meghan taking place right inside closed meeting rooms with Ted Sarandos, co-CEO of Netflix. According to verified sources directly participating in the negotiation, when Netflix's leadership was considering budget allocations for Archewell's projects, Meghan made a cold-blooded demand. She directly downplayed the commercial potential of script ideas and film projects related to Harry. She demanded Netflix push her husband's projects aside, stalling their funding. Instead, she demanded Netflix channel its full budget and production team to back her own personal cooking documentary series and the American Riviera Orchard lifestyle brand. This backstabbing decision right at the negotiating table changes the entire dynamic of the story. It tears off the veil, covering a couple standing together against the world. It exposes a naked truth. Meghan is willing to trample on the interests of her own life partner, turning Harry into nothing more than a stepping stone to save her own halo. Exposed by the notorious journalist, their cash flow tightened by the IRS, and pressured by the federal court over the visa issue, what media tricks will the Sussexes use to try and thrash their way out of the quagmire? And how pathetic will their resistance become? March 2026. Journalist Tom Bower's book, Betrayal, officially appears on bookshelves and immediately sweeps all global sales charts. He does not merely publish a book, but unleashes a thick investigative dossier, exposing every deceitful corner of the Sussex empire. Facing pressure from the internal meeting minutes and the testimonies of 80 witnesses laid bare on paper, Harry and Meghan's million-dollar public relations team in California falls into a state of utter panic. Instead of choosing the familiar, silent tactic to wait for public opinion to settle, they make the most disastrously wrong decision in their history of media crisis management. The Sussex's official spokesperson proactively drafts a lengthy statement and sends it straight to the GB News broadcasting station in the UK. Right on live television, they use the harshest words to personally attack Tom Bower. They loudly call him someone clinging to cheap conspiracy theories, a person suffering from severe delusion, and emphasize over and over that the Sussex couple has never met him even once. They are certain this insulting, preemptive strike will lower the book's credibility, making the public believe that what Bower writes is merely the product of a toxic imagination. But reality slaps them right in the face with a classic media rule, the Streisand effect. The more they try to censor, deny, and tear down, the more they push the public's curiosity to the absolute peak. People who initially did not care the least about the book or royal dramas are now flocking to e-commerce platforms to order the book. They want to see with their own eyes what terrible evidence Tom Bower wrote that caused a professional PR team to lose control and react so frantically. Sales of Betrayal skyrocket, conquering the #1 spot on all distribution platforms in less than 24 hours. From his private office in London, Tom Bower leisurely takes a sip of tea, watching the outraged news report on GB News, and smiles triumphantly. He absolutely does not need to speak up to strike back or prove anything more. The opponent's clumsy defense and irrational anger are the most valuable evidence, affirming that he has plunged a deep knife right into their fatal pressure point. The humiliating failure on the media front quickly triggers a domino effect, directly devastating the entire commercial ecosystem that Meghan and Harry are trying to build. The massive podcast production deal, worth tens of millions of dollars with Spotify, is officially torn up mercilessly. A senior executive of this platform, Bill Simmons, does not hesitate to go straight onto a major radio program and publicly call the Sussex couple grifters, right in front of millions of listeners. At the same time, the lucrative, vital contract with Netflix also falls into a state of complete stagnation. Executives in Hollywood do not evaluate partners through tiers on TV. They read user data. They realize this couple's victim-playing song has been squeezed to the last drop, and audiences are reacting conversely with boredom, leading to a precipitous drop in viewer retention rates. The American Riviera Orchard lifestyle brand, furiously prepared by Meghan, also sinks amidst a sea of negative news. To salvage the image of a power couple in decline, Meghan's team tries to stage one last fake glamorous cover, but it is immediately stripped of its truth to the utmost extent of shame by Tom Bower's book. The book exposes in detail an event under the Invictus Games framework taking place at an arena in Canada in early 2025. The actual revenue statistics show that a mere 43 spectators paid for tickets to enter the chilly arena to watch the wheelchair basketball game. Yet, when event photos are splashed across newspapers and social media the next day, people see Harry and Meghan smiling and waving, surrounded by a passionate and massive crowd. The truth is their PR team used the most crude image manipulation tactic. They proactively herded about 100 organisers, volunteers and bodyguards to crowd tightly around the couple right in front of the camera lenses, cropping the frame to hide the gaping empty seats in the stands. The purpose was to create a fake scene of being sought after, deceiving sponsors that their appeal remained intact. When this deceitful detail is exposed using internal documents, the Hollywood elite officially turns its back. They can tolerate stars with many private life troubles, but they absolutely boycott and cut ties with those who fake commercial data and deceive the public with cheap, staged photos. The cash flow from media mega contracts has been tightly locked, but the giant money-burning machine at the Montecito mega mansion continues to operate at full capacity. The bills for the 24/7 security team, maintenance costs for the 16-acre estate, expensive property taxes, and fees to maintain the crisis lawyer team steadily siphon $3 million from them every year. In a financial desperation with no way out, Harry and Meghan are forced to swallow their pride. They instruct aides to quietly leak information to friendly journalists in the UK, continuously hinting that Harry is feeling regret and wants to find a way to mend his relationship with King Charles, Prince William and Princess Catherine. They crave a joint photo, a public nod from Buckingham Palace to regain the sacred royal cover, the only thing that can help them continue knocking on investors' doors in America. However, responding to that calculating and desperate humbling is a deadly silence from the London power system. Not a single written reply, not a single call connected. Veteran royal expert Jenny Bond, on behalf of the entire institution and British public opinion, sends Meghan an incredibly realistic and ruthless message. You have made your own bed, now lie in it. All connecting bridges have been burned down. There is absolutely no way out to return. The focus of the tension now shifts straight inside the oak doors of King Charles's office. After years of maintaining a father's patience and tolerance, the king is now sitting with the dynasty's highest-ranking legal advisors to seriously discuss the nuclear option. They are reviewing historical acts to prepare for the scenario of permanently stripping the Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles from Harry and Meghan. The Royal Advisory Team confirms the absolute feasibility of this action and draws a final red line. If the US Federal Immigration Court officially rules Harry guilty of illicit substance file fraud on a government document and issues a deportation order, the British royal family is compelled to immediately press the button to activate the title stripping. The Crown will never allow the country's honour to be tarnished by someone with a federal criminal record. With funds running dry, Hollywood turning its back, and US law tightening its encirclement, what reality will the Sussexes face at the present moment? May 2026. In London, major bookstores on Piccadilly Street are continuously restocking. Tom Bower's book Betrayal sits imposingly in the centre position on display shelves. The veteran journalist leisurely sips tea in his private office, receiving revenue reports pouring in from international publishers. He does not need to speak up to strike back with another word on television broadcasts. The truth, resting on paper, is bringing him both absolute prestige and millions of pounds in royalties. At the Montecito mega mansion in California, the atmosphere is thick with tension. Meghan Markle is trapped among piles of thick accounting records. She and her financial advisory team are sweating profusely to transparently declare every single penny of global income to the US Internal Revenue Service, IRS. Every money transfer from trust funds in the UK, book sales revenue, shell company profits, down to valuable gifts given to Archie and Lilibet are dissected. The FATCA Act tightens the encirclement, threatening to siphon a massive chunk from the fortune she took pains to hoard. If she conceives the intention to renounce her US citizenship to flee, the system will immediately activate the exit tax, collapsing her bank account that very day. A few rooms away, Prince Harry lives in utter suspense. His phone screen is always lit. He is waiting for a ruling from federal judge Carl Nichols in Washington, D.C. His 82 pages of redacted visa documents are still being fiercely pursued day by day by the Heritage Foundation. The risk of having his green card stripped and being deported hangs right over his head. Meanwhile, the escape route back to his homeland has been permanently sealed. Buckingham Palace rejects all communication attempts. King Charles focuses his energy on national issues. Prince William is busy with tours, completely ignoring his brother's existence. Hollywood turns its back. Archwell's projects are frozen. Event invitations from the entertainment elite are no longer sent to the Sussex's mailbox. Facing this deadlocked situation, two legal pincers are tightly squeezing the Sussex empire from both sides. Which bomb will detonate first? Will the massive tax collection order from the IRS wipe clean Meghan's bank account, or will the visa stripping ruling from the US Department of Homeland Security strike down on Harry's head for illicit substance file fraud? If the federal court orders deportation, where will a British prince with a criminal record in America go when the very power system in his homeland has closed its doors in refusal? The collapse of the Sussexes goes far beyond the framework of a regular entertainment scandal. It directly touches the harsh boundaries of power and law. You can build a victim image, selling your family's inner secrets in exchange for media mega contracts. Hollywood can tolerate private life dramas. But the federal legal system and the US tax agency do not care where you stand in the line of succession to the throne. The punishment does not come from the suppression of the British royal family, as they constantly preach. It comes from their own arrogance, greed, and habit of disregarding the common rules of society. The fact that a royal member abused privileges to interfere in the US media, only to now have his fate decided by this nation's very legal system, creates a bitter paradox. America was once the promised land for the couple's freedom. Now it turns into a financial and legal prison with no way back. Is draining the prestige of an institution for personal gain the worst move, when ultimately you lose both your protective cover and the respect of the global public? Will the US federal judge uphold strictness, strip the green card and deport Prince Harry? Or will there be some secret political arrangement at the last minute to save face for both nations? Comment your opinion right below. Click subscribe to the channel now to continue following financial files and the fiercest purges behind the bricks. Doors of the global power elite.